Hey folks, welcome back to another battle report. It's Warhammer 6th edition again, and I'm bringing out my Lizarmen. And we're having a bit of a mixed game, a couple of skirmish games and a bigger game. Basically the skirmish games are going to affect how the bigger game being played will be resolved. And we'll have a quick look over the smaller games first, but this will be the final game, which is basically a big road, and the players are attacking a caravan. It's 4 players, and we're using the warbands rules at 500 points each. Some of the scenarios will be affecting the final game. Again, we're going to do a group of 3. The bonus from this game was for each caravan in the players have at the end of it, we'll give them extra points for the final game. So we'll see how it goes. So, over on the one table, I wasn't playing on, we had the Chaos and my allies, the High Elves, and they were playing Cut the Bridges. This is a Warhammer skirmish game, and the Chaos are trying to cut the bridge, stopping the Elves crossing, and the Elves are obviously trying to cross and kill as many of the defenders as they can. Unfortunately, it didn't end up too well for the Elves, and yeah, they lost this one. And this was to give the winners team the choice of attacker defender setup in the last third game. So that was to decide that, and because we're waiting for another game to be played, we actually jumped in and got another game being played with this one, where they actually did the reverse, and since everything was broken down, Chaos then tried to cross it by bridging the gap, in which case they had to get models off the other side as they do like a sneak attack onto the High Elves. And here's just a couple of shots of the reverse game. So the Elves have got a war machine and some core troops. The Chaos will kind of run across that ford there, which is dangerous. I think a third of the chance someone will die. And in the meantime, they're cutting down bits of wood, as you might see in the bottom there, and basically just trying to make bridges to cross. They made a few bridges, lost a few men trying to cross, and they actually lost this one. And this one gave us the choice of attacker defender in the second game. So that was our choice. Now for my skirmish game, I did the little siege where you have one set of fortifications and you have to defend them or attack them, and I was the defender with my Lizarmen. I was up against the undead who had a necromancer. Now my opponent was has just started getting into fantasy, and I just let him have my night goblins and a few skellies I had to represent his undead army. So in the future you'll see in the next game, his undead army being a lot of goblins and a couple of skeletons thrown in there just to look more dead. So these guys are his starting force. So with a level 2 necromancer, that was going to be quite scary. On the upside, for my defence, I have got several saurists, I think 5 saurists and 5 skinks with blowpipes. Not a huge defence, but the guys have got to come, the skellies have got to come over the wall. Yeah, fear might be a slight issue, but other than that, he's hitting me on 6s, and I'm free to whack him quite freely to knock him back off the wall again. And he's got 7 turns to capture this section of wall that I have here. It's not going to be easy, but as I say, he's got the necromancer to cast magic. As the fortress rules are, I know it was done as an FAQ later on, I believe. Basically, you can't cast magic beyond the wall. Walls in Warhammer Fantasy have been designed with inscribed with things to stop magic being cast over. So no, he can't just cast Raise Dead onto the walls or in behind the wall to win. So the first couple of turns, the skellies moved up to the wall. I couldn't do much against them. Got a couple of fuel for my darts, but my opponent started casting some magic and started raising more. My guys just held defensives the best they could. But as you can see, the advantage I got, he had 7 turns to get him in. But in the meantime, he was raising quite a horde as he was building up outside the walls. And my poor Lizarmen were just trying to hold it back. Dice there just showing that the damage done to the gate already. He managed to roll quite high for that as well. So I held on the best I could and fought back with everything I had. As the time went on, more and more zombies rose from the ground, and slowly they started battering down the gate. It was getting to the point now where they were soon going to break through the gate. But what was behind the walls was something out of like Game of Thrones, with just a mass. I think it was like 40 odd skeletons by the time the wizard had finished, tiring himself out with casting some spells. It looks like we're on about turn 6 when the doors finally came crashing down. And unfortunately, we had one Lizarmen there. I've got another one on the way. And then the block of like 42 skeletons are about to make their way through. But then my luck changed, and thankfully my opponent, who's got so keen on getting through the doorway, also pushed his necromancer up as well, and that left him in blowpipe range of my skinks, and all my skinks that weren't engaged in fighting on the wolves engaged him, and as soon as that happened, he has obviously got no armour. I managed to get 2 poison attacks through, and then the army crumbled, as you can see, and there was nothing left really of the skeletons, and that was a victory to the Lizarmen, who just about held on. So with that victory, that gave us a watchtower in the final game, and then we moved on to the second game, which was the protect the caravan. There were 3 caravan tokens, to which myself with the Lizarmen and my high elf ally would have to protect them. We basically start with them, and the enemy has to capture them, and we'll be up against the chaos and undead. And again, once again, the undead will be a combo of my night goblins, just so we had something to use. So looking at my force again, we're playing about 500 points. We're using the warbands rules, so some of the undersized units are allowed. So I've got 8 Saurus there, my wizard was level 2 and some skinks. And on the second wagon I have my croc scores and another little unit of skinks. My high elf ally only had the one baggage train, or in which case sheep here to guard. He's got a small unit of spearmen, I think 12 old spearmen. He's got a level 1 wizard in it, the chariot, and 2 archer units. The chaos player had a champion of chaos with, I think, the Zinchi thing, which allowed him to be a level 1 wizard. He's got 4 knights who were chosen, 3 warriors with hand, weapon and shield, I think 5 warriors behind the tree there with hand, weapon, shield, and I think also the optional great weapon as well he took. And finally, for the undead, we have 2 level 1 wizards. The 2 units are skeletons. The ones that have skeletons, basically spearmen are skeletons, and the bowmen are zombies. And then we have a squig, which is acting as a banshee. But again, apologise for this, but this player wants to get into it, and I've got no reason not to stop him trying out 6 to see what he likes. And by the sounds of it, he's actually going all in and getting some undead. So this worked out quite well, really. For my spells, I had Urin's Thunderbolt and Forked Lightning, I believe, so it was the 2 damage spells, which was quite handy, really. So I was using mostly offensive magic. The level 1 wizard on my side for the High Elves had Fireball, I believe, and he also brought the ring that had the Fury of Cain in it, which, comes in handy. So the Forces of Evil get first turn and declared charges where they could. The only one that was really in range was the Chaos Chosen. They declared charge on my Saurus, and there's no way I was going to take those guys into my flank, so I quite happily fled there, bringing the Chaos Chosen forward and hoping to catch them shortly with my Croxagores. So the evil side at the top, the undead moving up the Banshee, and just to give it a scream at the chariots and that, see what they can get out of it. So thinking about it, I think it made the Chaos champion, I think, level 2 wizard, because he had the spell which basically made your own guys fight each other, and my Flingosaurus ended up beating themselves up. Sorry, there's 12 Saurus, not 8 from earlier. Anyway, they end up beating themselves up, and I lose 2. So we're looking at the end of the first turn for the evil side. In our turn, my Lizarmen managed to rally and turn to face what's coming in. My Skink and Skink Priest all try and get away out of any of the charge range of these Chaos Warriors down the bottom there, and I was just considering put some magic onto them to get rid of them. And at the top, the Elves just pull back to reform to get everything into a decent charge range and nothing's in the flank, and to get a good counter charge for the chariot, while the archers try and pick off and take out the necromancers just behind the wall at the top there. Our magic phase was a bit lackluster due to the fact that they tried to block all my dice, especially with the Orange Thunderbolt, stopping armor saves and casting it off on obviously all the Chaos Warriors. But we did it all and got the last of our spells off, and then my High Elf ally cast his Fury of Cain from his ring and literally wiped out the 10-man unit of skeletons. It was pretty impressive, and lo and behold, we rolled a 1 after that to see if the ring ran out. So yeah, it was definitely full power for 1 round of shooting. So back to the evil turn, and we can see the zombies charging against the elven spearmen. And again, in the background, you can see the banshee there. While on the other side, the Chaos Warriors casually move up, but not too quickly, and cast some more spells, and the dead raise some more dead, and in the combat the Elves hold back the zombies. Back to our turn. My wizard continues being a pain in the ass. You can see my Lizarmen have just moved up to tempt in another charge from the Chaos Warriors, ready to countercharge there by my croc scores, you can just see there. And yeah, my wizard blasts a couple more of these Chaos Warriors, and my blow darts will fire at them too. Finishing off the warriors, as you can see. The elves get some support by chucking in the it's not actually a white lion, obviously this is prior to white lions, it'll be a normal chariot from the high elves, just to give a bit more combat res with the impact hits against the zombies. So this is how we're looking at the moment. As you can see, we're holding our baggage pretty well. The undead are nearly wiped out. I think I managed to kill all but one ruddy zombie, slightly annoying. And I'm prepped up, taking on the Chaos Warriors. At the moment, I'm just avoiding the combats, the shooting, hitting them with magic. They'll get to combat with me eventually, but hopefully by then, my Croxies will be able to pick on something and just smash it to pieces. So again, in the opponent's turn, they charged my Lizardmen as planned. I fled, and this time I'm actually in charge range. First time, I wasn't sure, so I didn't call it. I didn't want to be caught out in the open and then be charged by both the mounted Chaos Warriors and the Chaos Warriors on foot. But this time, yep, I'm not only able to charge them, but I'll get a flank onto them. Over on the other side, the Banshees decided to be annoying and start charging the Elf Bowmen. And obviously the Elf Bowmen can't do anything, they're relying on combat res to wipe it out. So that's how it's looking on the high elf flank. As you can see, they've actually managed to put one wound onto the second necromancer. The main necromancer, the general, is in their unit of skeletons. The other necromancer's hiding behind him. But I think I can get a shot on now with my skinks if they move up to him. And the rest of the unit is just pinned fighting that one zombie. This combat round should easily wipe him out. And yeah, the elves will just have to see what happens with the Banshee, because there's not a lot they can do. All they're going to do is get screamed at, and they can't hit them, because unfortunately Banshees are ethereal, and this means they can only be hit or hurt by magic attacks. So it's hard work for a unit with nothing to do anything with them. So onto this side of the battlefield, it's back onto our turn, and I charge the Chaos Knights, who actually fled away from my croc scores. So let's leave my croc scores in the open, but if I can combine enough firepower onto them, I reckon I can get rid of some of those Chaos Warriors and my crocs will be absolutely fine. My other Saurus Warriors rally quite happily. And then we get to the top of the table. In the last turn, my opponent, they gave all the magic dice to the wizards, and they managed to raise up a unit of zombies to block off my skinks from getting his necromancer. And then they also started to bulk out the zombies that are fighting the spearman and chariot. Didn't matter what we did, we tried to save some dice back. Once he rolled really high and we thought, oh, we'll hang on to the last one, and then he did an irresistible force. But on the upside, if you look at the top there, the Banshee has actually taken a wound because they had a round of combat where it did nothing and the elves just got the outnumber bonus. So back to the opponent's turn, and you can just see how effective their magic is being. Even though the elves are doing really well and slaying a load of zombies, they've actually raised another unit of zombies and added to it, and they've also, I think they've added to the other existing one. I like to point out in this round where they raised the zombies, they rolled an 11 for how many they raised, and it's 2d6 plus 2, so that's 2 units, like 13 zombies. It was nuts. And if you look down on my flank, we just peppered the hell out of the Chaos Warriors, finished them up. And right at the top, just in the corner, you can just see the elves. They overran and finished off that one zombie into this new unit of zombies. And yeah, so the undead are raising back up nearly as big an army as they actually started the game with. But the Chaos Warriors I'm keeping under control, and so far my 2 lots of baggage are well safe with my Lizarmen protecting them. And as you can see, there's actually a wound, I believe, on the Chaos Warrior. And no, it was just me showing how many I've killed off. So I knocked off 2 other warriors this time. So yeah, there's not much left of the Chaos Army, and I haven't even engaged them in combat yet. So up on the Elves half, as you can see, the burst through even the other unit of zombies, which is fantastic. Downside is the chariot overran quite happily, and he was hoping the spearman would overrun into the flank of the zombies that are protecting his wizard there from my skinks. Unfortunately, Yeah, he rolled I think like a 2 or a 3 for his overrun. So now he's got his flank to show to the enemy Necromancer General and his unit of skeletons. So overall, the elves are struggling a little bit with the undead because they keep raising them up, but have pushed them back somewhat. Banshee is still alive, chopping away at the archers. And down the bottom, my Lizarmen are quite happily protecting the two cargo from the Chaos Warrior. There's not many left, there's just the hero and one warrior, and I think 4 Chaos Knights, though I'll just concentrate on my shooting on them now, try and finish them off. So the elves get chased, well, the zombies, skeletons declare a charge on the elves. They obviously flee. There's no way they'll be able to win engagement into the flank, and they manage to get away. And still the banshees fighting the archers at the top. His zombies down the bottom charge my skinks, who also flee. And it's looking something like that. As you see, the Chaos Warriors, they split up. The Wizard, or Champion, upgraded to a Wizard, legged it, leaving the Chaos Warrior just to bait out my Croc scores. And unfortunately, the Chaos Knights also rallied. They actually failed their first one on a 9, but thanks to their Chaos Undivided, they got the reroll and managed to stay on the game. In our following turn, as you can see, we managed to keep the undead pretty well controlled. Nothing overly mad happened in opponent's turn for a change for us. This turn I charged my Crocs going against the Chaos Warrior and wiped him out. My skinks unfortunately continued to flee. They now head towards the shortest, nearest table edge. At the top, thankfully, our high elf allies managed to rally and now facing off against the skeletons, and the chariots also turned to face against the incoming zombies. So at the moment, we've still got the 2 baggage trains down here, and there's just the one at the top, which I think the Banshee by now is actually getting a bit annoying and has actually beaten one of the elf archer units and is now going off to chase the other one. Between the magic and ranged, we actually managed to take out one of these. Yes, one of these Chaos Warriors, and I even managed to squeeze an Uran Thunderbolt through and got a wound on this guy. Oh, it was so annoying. I managed to get it through. I sneaked it through by rolling really high. I think it was only 2 dice, but unfortunately, my roll for how many hits was 1. But it wounded and nearly managed to kill out the Chaos Lord. Back to opponent's turn, they didn't do a lot this round except put their effort into raising more skeleton warriors to take on the high elves. So this is how it's looking at the end of the turn, and you see my Crocsword wipes out the one chap pretty easily, and the just overran to where they were. The Chaos guy is trying to hide at the top edge there, get away from my Saurus for a charge, and I was, pretty good, I think. I think at this moment the Banshee's now charged, so I haven't taken photos of her, but the Banshee's now charged the second unit of archers and starting to annoy them now. On our turn, the elves managed to charge in with the chariot, including all the attacks, the impact hits, which he got a good amount from. Actually only managed to, didn't even get to do a wound on him, because I think I got a wound on him earlier, didn't I? Oh no, I think, no, they absolutely failed, yep. That was our one chance. We thought we could get rid of him pretty easily. Just send in the chariot, bish bosh bash, and dead. But nope, the Chaos Champion stands there quite happily and takes on the entire ruddy chariot and doesn't flee because he doesn't do any wounds back, I don't believe. And the chariot outnumbers him. So, yep, he holds there. My skinks just continue annoying these Chaos Warriors because, of course, they've got no OP and they have a 2-up save. But I managed to sneak a couple more through. You see my Crocs are just aligned now, so they can't get caught out by these warriors if they charged in. And my Saurus are heading up towards the zombies. So as you see, things are looking pretty good for the good side. The Lizarmen have pretty much captured their 2 objectives and are holding them. My Croc scores are in a place where the Chaos Warriors can either charge them or charge into the baggage train, in which case they got the counter charge to my Croc scores and they should easily finish them off. And if they doesn't go for that, I'll just keep peppering them to death with my skinks. My other skinks, unfortunately, on the hill there are still running away. And at the top of the screen, you can see there's one archer that has managed to rally, and then there's 2 other archers. They were screamed at, and they've rallied now, and they're back to trying to chase out a little necromancer who's running around. The undead continue relentlessly by putting in some charges, first against my Saurus, and then against the elf spearman. And as you can see, the skeleton unit has bulked itself up, so it now outnumbers the elves, which is always a worry, because there's auto break in 6th edition. So if you are beaten in combat by a fear-causing enemy and they outnumber you, you auto break. There is no leadership test required. Unfortunately, the high elves whiff and don't do any damage to the skeletons. Of course, in the meantime, the skellies have cast some spells and increased their ranks even more. And just the combat res and a few casualties meant that, yeah, they were auto-broken, fled and caught. So the high elf army has been pretty much destroyed. And this is pretty much how the game ends. So the high elves are all but wiped out. They've got, like, I think 3 bowmen left. The Banshee has managed to capture one of the objective markers. My Saurus managed to clean up the zombies that are fighting. That Chaos Champion actually wiped out and killed the Ruddy Chariot. I couldn't believe that. And there's the Chaos Knights. They stayed back there, didn't want to get involved with the clock scores, and were just waiting there for the skinks to try and finish them off. All in all, this was a really good game. It was something a bit different. It seemed quite hard for the attackers until you realise attackers go first and get that jump on you, and they set up after you as well, so they get to see where you deploy, and you can only deploy within 8 inches of the baggage crates. This was based on one of the Warhammer Warband special scenarios. It was really good fun to play, so we ended up as the good guys having 2 baggage trains, so that'll give us some bonus points in the final mission, and the evil got 1. So the final mission will be played probably in a couple of weeks when I'm next at the club. The high elf player will be dropped out and we'll have another good guy player to join me. But other than that, that's how it looks, and it was really good fun. As you might have noticed, this is a completely new setup. I've got a new camera, and I'm using a new program to do the videos in. This takes a lot longer, so I don't know if they look any better than they normally are. Are they a bit more interactive, a bit more interesting? I hope they are. So just let me know what you think. If this is hopefully the way forward, I'll go. As I say, what normally takes me like, an hour or something, it's now taking me, I don't know, 2.5, 3 hours to do. So as long as I can keep plugging them out, I can work on them in a couple of evenings. I can easily add the narration afterwards, and we'll see how it goes from there. Alright guys, I'll see you on the next one. Wish you all the best, and Thou Wallace.